Throughout the research and planning stage of our production, the main media technology that we have used in this stage is YouTube, particularly for the research to go to conventions of short films. YouTube is effectively a hub of audience-created content. We have used this technology as an easy way to access a variety of short horror films. The main reason for this choice is the fact that short films found on YouTube will be very low budget, for the most part, and will also have similar go-to conventions to our final film.
YouTube helped us to gather a large amount of information straight from the short film industry. This research helped us to achieve realistic expectations for our final piece straight from the get-go. YouTube represents the democratization of the film industry in the sense that it allows the audience to create films as part of the industry in a sense. The film industry has changed with the inclusion of the internet, especially with the use of YouTube in order to add to the industry.
We found YouTube to be a helpful tool throughout the research and planning stages, specifically due to the fact we were able to sample and think about the possible applications of codes and conventions throughout these stages. Having such a vast resource of short films available to us greatly aided in our ability to craft a production from the planning stage that we feel would be believable based upon the codes and conventions that we researched in detail.
Media technologies were also used in the presenting of our found codes and conventions, or the research into the theory that underpins the film industry, particularly in the sense of narrative theory. We found that the best way to present this research was in the form of a presentation software called Prezi. We found that Prezi allowed us to achieve all we wanted whilst keeping the content interesting and effective for its use. Prezi allowed us to inform whilst achieving a level of work that is professional and interesting. This allowed us to write concisely in order to inform about what is often found in real media products.
Another media technology that was used in the planning stage of our production was celltext. Celltext was used to create every draft of our screenplay. The screenplay allowed us to have the basis on what we were attempting to create while actually filming our final piece. This piece of media technology was used both as a plan for our filming and also a brief for our actors. YouTube was again used in this particular stage of the planning due to the fact we used a number of tutorials found on YouTube in order to use the piece of software effectively.
Throughout the construction of our media, we used Photoshop for the poster and the review page, and Final Cut X for the creation of the film. We had some experience with Photoshop in the previous year due to the fact that we all created a music magazine for our Year 12 coursework. We were able to hone these existing skills and apply them in a different way this year. Such as the construction of our posters, this year the main image was essential and needed to look effective in its use. This can be achieved in various ways in Photoshop, such as changing the brightness of an image to convey the tone and atmosphere that we have attempted to create in our film, or by adding certain other images into the existing image. For instance, one member of the group decided to include an eye in the lens of the camera. This adds to hermeneutic codes that we attempted to establish throughout the film, as it raises the question, why is there an eye in the camera lens?
The basic skills of using Photoshop were already in place, whereas with Final Cut X it was a brand new piece of software to learn. This piece of software allowed us to create our final piece and also allowed us to create videos in order to present our evaluation. From before we started to edit our film, it was imperative to learn how to use the software. We accomplished the same by seeking out tutorials on YouTube and general trial and error when we eventually started to edit the footage.
Again, for the creation of our review pages, we came back to using Photoshop. Photoshop allowed us to create professional and effective review pages that looked realistic. Photoshop and Final Cut were the main media technologies used for the entirety of our coursework due to the fact that we were able to do a large array of different things with each piece of software, such as with Photoshop being used right from the research stage of our production up until the actual creation of the ancillary tasks.
Final Cut X allowed us the ability to edit the saturation levels of our footage and the sound levels equally. This allowed us to change the tone of the film with these tools, such as amplifying a sound or creating a tension-rich atmosphere with the use of low-key lighting being amplified by the software. During the construction of our film, we also used Photoshop in order to create the recording graphic featured in the handheld camera shots of our film.
This allowed us to establish the fact that the antagonist is filmed without actually saying anything in the film. As well as Photoshop, YouTube was also able to be used in the creation of our film, as we needed music and certain sound effects that can be found on royalty-free YouTube accounts. As well as music and sound effects, we also used static found on YouTube in our final film.
The main media technology that we used in the construction of our media product was cameras and lighting equipment. We used the cameras throughout the construction due to the fact that each take required some form of image or video. Most notably was the filming of our main product. We had some experience with using cameras in the previous year of coursework, although we had never used them to the extent that they were used in the filming stage of the construction of our media piece.
We also had no experience with the filming function, only taking stills in the previous year. This was initially a challenge, although after practicing and looking up tutorials on the particular camera that we were filming with, it soon became less of a challenge. This is evident in the early footage that we shot due to the fact that it looks less effective than the later footage due to the simple fact that we were inexperienced at first.
The lighting of shots was also invariably important due to the codes and conventions we were attempting to convey throughout our film with the lighting of the shots. This was so important due to the fact that the representation that the audience have of each scene is done simply through the framing and lighting of the shots due to the lack of dialogue present throughout our film. Again, as with the actual filming of the shots, the lighting improved throughout as we became more adept at the lighting of the different shots.